But Hayer's affidavit held a solid lead. Hayer said that all of the assassins came from the same mosque, and it wasn't the Harlem Mosque, as the police claimed.
Everybody in the group of assassins came from the Newark Mosque. They all were Jersey people. If these had been people from the Fruit of Islam in New York, everybody would have known them. But they were not. And that's why they got away with it, because they were people nobody knew.
Hey, this is Petey, and I just recently had a discussion about the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X that's on Netflix. It's, I believe it's about 6 parts. And basically, I really want you guys to go out and watch it. It's very informative, and it actually answers the question. It gets very direct. It deals with no myths. It deals with actual facts and stuff that's from the federal government. So, but this right here, this video coming up is basically just a discussion about it, discussing, our feelings, our reactions to it. And since, most of us either grew up or went to school in New Jersey, that feeling of having this hero of ours, Malcolm X, actually be discussing the possibilities that his killers were either where they were said they were in Harlem or in Jersey. So this documentary points out a lot of things. It gives you a great history of Malcolm X and the time right around his death. So, and then it also might put the pieces together for people who also have interest in Malcolm X. That'll give you some really fine detail. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thanks, bye. When I saw this on Netflix, and I was like, and I watch a lot of those documentaries and something that can be on the end of like conspiracy or whatever and all that stuff. I was like, all right, I got to get this in to see what this is like. And I really was surprised that this was as revealing as it was. I really didn't expect it to be like fingering the person who killed Malcolm X and like give you a direct connection to him and then show him in there and him being such a pillar of the community. And that's really what I wanted to hear you guys' reaction to this documentary in general. Because I was just like, oh, most of the time they keep it a myth. They keep you sort of like, hey, this could have happened. This is how it could have gone. And then you're like, there's a book. It was reported about like 3 years ago. The book came out in 2011. It's just like, Lord. And then it also felt like.
Wait, the book came out in 2011?
Yeah, but I think the person passed. I think it's Manning. I think I have it here somewhere.
You know the title of it?
Yeah. So for me, that was, I think watching it a second time, that's where they said that person who is Manning Marable. I think he wrote the book and whatnot. And they like drawing all these, the conclusions that was the word I didn't like, which was an open secret in Newark. And I was just like, oh my God, that really hurt. So I wanted to hear what you guys thought about this also.
No, well, it was just interesting because it just reminded me of, for me, it just took me back to when I was growing up and how you saw the Fruit of Islam or Nation of Islam and, the way they were like the pillar of the community, but you also knew that they were not to be messed with, put it like that. Just like you also knew the information they used to put out, but then you also, I also saw from people who were Muslim or been around them, like the fear that you didn't go against. So I wasn't surprised when people did not speak up or say anything because a lot of people were afraid because of the stigma that was around it. So it was amazing to me that when I was talking to Monica about this earlier, I said, now, people went to prison and they were incarcerated for a crime they didn't commit, and people in the community knew this. So the person who did it knew this. Everyone knew this, but to a certain extent, no one came up and said anything. Why? Like sometimes we'll talk about how other individuals are incarcerated based on racism, but we knew in our own community that people were serving time and did nothing about it, knowing that they were not even the perpetrators of the crime. So it's kind of like, hypocritical when we talk like, oh my gosh, we got to fight for somebody to get out that did something when they were like racially profiled. But in this situation, we knew, people knew but no one said anything because it was like this silent kept secret. Like, I ain't even want to talk about Mayor Booker, but even his body language, I was like, listen, somebody need to teach him how to do stuff better, because he really felt like he wanted to run out the room. He was like, I did.
Like he got caught doing something.
Yeah. Oh, I have seen him. He was in my commercial. Yes.
Yes. Oh, you got that down pat. That whole man.
So I said, wow, that was very interesting. Everyone knew. Only person that kind of kept it together and she kept her stand was Sheila Oliver, Lieutenant Governor. She was like, yeah, okay, I know him.
Yeah, she kept it real. She was like, I heard that. Yeah.
So she and Raz is like, basically Raz was just like, listen, I know, but if you know, and you don't say nothing if you know how, that type of thing.
Right.
And I knew what he was insinuating to, so. But overall, it was just amazing that I even recognized the person as well. And I was like, wow, no. And then to realize that boxing place was right on Bergen Street. You know how many times I have driven around there? I'm around the corner from it, live around the area.
We've seen this guy in the community many times, because we used to go to like a lot of like a lot of events. Like we just seen him in the community, and it's amazing how why would we think anything bad? But it's just crazy how this man was really just living a normal life without no consequence. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just caught me off guard. And I really feel bad for the two men who were convicted, and people knew they were innocent. And one of them died before he even got his just due. Hopefully the one that's still living can still get some sort of, just due. But it made me feel like, I love the documentary. I love, like you said, Sam, it exposed a lot, but it also felt like justice still has not been done. So there's like this empty part, like, kind of left you like mad at the end, like, will these people at least get exonerated somehow? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know the last guy that's still living, well, not the last guy, the guy that's innocent but still living, he's going through the Innocent Project right now, so I'm hoping that helps him. But it did reveal a lot, though. It really did.
Well, for me, I've been probably, even since college, I was a big Malcolm X conspiracy theory guy.
Oh, okay.
So I've been reading about this for like years and years and years. So when I saw the documentary, it filled in about 25%. I knew about 75%.
Did you? Okay.
And it filled in like 25%. But the part that was stunning to me was that I remember a while ago, again, being in the community, being in Newark, someone it was like a little whisper talk. We was talking like a black history event or something. And I remember someone said some kind of off-putting, or, they were like, yeah, because, the person here is right here in the Brick City. I was like, but you know how you get into those ciphers and you people just talking? I'm like, they just talking. You know what I mean? So when they revealed this with the guy Bradley, I just hit the floor.
Did you see him around the community?
I remember maybe a Weekway Park event or something like that. I think he's with his wife. I think he's with his wife or something. And again, you just seeing people, people. But I never had no interactions. I never. No, I'm not going to say I put two and two, or that's him, or nothing like that. But the piece was excellent. But even now, looking back when I look at Spike Lee's film, the Malcolm X film, or I look at the scene in the Ali film, and now you can put the names on who the people are. Mm-hmm. It's deep.
It is deep.
It is deep.
It was Monica and I yesterday had a conversation. I finished it yesterday because I watched it weeks ago, and then I stopped watching it. Some parts were like really intense, and I just was like, I couldn't continue. So I did finish yesterday, and I was a little disturbed at the end. I felt it was just so unfair. Like when things happen, as tragic as that, and so many people are affected, right? So you have the undercover police officer who no one knew was there. He just like walked away, just walked away. And then the children are affected, the wife is affected, you know, their whole total life is affected. And everyone who was rooting for him and believed in him, they were affected, a large community of people. And um, Monica and I were talking about how even if like even if he didn't leave the nation, would he have? It still would have been a conflict. There still would have been a conflict. Like he was underneath all of the being a part of the nation. He was a civil rights activist. That's what I got, about him. And I was saying that the older I've gotten, I've gained a lot more respect for him and Martin. Although they had two different approaches towards civil rights, I think they were both fighting for the upliftment of Black people in America. They just went a different route about it. And it's just unfortunate that we didn't get to see what would have happened if he lived, starting the organization that he did after he left the nation. I think he came into another wave of enlightenment about the world and about people.
One of the other things that I struggle with hearing about everyone knowing it in Newark, but then when they go through the FBI files and then they're like, there were 9 informants and there were none of them at the trial. So then the blame also goes back to the government to say that these guys should be in trial. They could have fingered the person and people who had done it. You know, they were there early in there, and that's where it's just like, well, back to you guys, because you guys did it again. You know, like how long do they have to stay confidential? This is the case right here. He's gone, like, end this and speak out. But then they like, no, we're just gonna keep it under wraps. But then this is official. They have to give up the paperwork. Then you see this stuff, and it's like 9. That's crazy. That's as bad as we can look at it. And it builds slowly in the doc where you're talking about the town and they go to different Muslim people and they're like saying, you know, like, don't dig this back up. But then you go to that paperwork and you're just like, come on, they're official. Just get them in court, finger who it is, and then this could be solved and not just let it go where they're going now. So how do you guys feel about that, about the federal government having so many informants, including a person that was right next to Malcolm?
That caught me off guard.
Who gave him mouth to mouth?
Yeah.
Who gave him mouth?
And they were mad about that.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
What the hell? Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, Eugene Roberts, I mean, after that, he even went to be an informant against the Black Panthers.
Did he?
So, yeah, the Panther 21, the bombing in New York. When he finished after he finished the assignment there with Malcolm, he infiltrated the Black Panthers in New York. So Eugene Roberts, he has, if you get the chance, you can go on YouTube. He does a little interview with Gil Noble.
Oh, I just definitely got to look that up.
And he says it, you know, he was like, you know, in fact, he was so out of the loop because they didn't tell which informants were in together. He saw the dry run on Malcolm's life a week before. And he reported to his authorities, and they act like they didn't know what was going on. But see, he didn't know that he wasn't in the loop. So
they knew, and they were setting up things to not have Malcolm get killed, but he wasn't informed about it.
Yeah, he called his authorities and said, "I think I saw a dry run on Malcolm's life," but they never followed up on it.
You think that was well? It may sound crazy, but do you think that was intentional? They just like, okay, it's just, you know.
Yeah, I think because if you look at the history of COINTELPRO, sometimes if let's say if all of us are informants, we won't necessarily all know we're all informants.
Right.
We can have different handlers.
Right.
Another part that really stood out to me, maybe because I'm a female, is like when they was like interviewing his wife, and they was asking her like tons of questions, and she only answered one. I think that's the one that finally like hit the nerve. Like, I'm gonna answer this question, but I just felt like they was almost like ecstatic to that he was gone. You know what I'm saying? Like ecstatic. Like, I just felt like this government had no shame in this whole process of his death.
No.
No, they didn't. But Monica, what you were saying, like the government knew. I mean, if we didn't know about the guy in Newark and who assassinated, we already knew that the government played a role in it, major role. And for them to have all that information, even when they went back to Harlem and they were able to find, remember it was downstairs in the basement, they were able to actually find the stand that was still there, evidence that had the bullet holes in it. Are you kidding me? Are you serious?
That's just
so there was no type of investigation even done.
Right, 20 years later.
Yeah.
20 years later, like something major would still be there.
They just wanted him gone. Period.
They just wanted him gone.
That's it.
From every avenue. So it wasn't just the FBI. It was just they just wanted him gone. So when they want you gone, even some people will collaborate even with the people who's doing the community wrong just to get what they need to get done. So I think it was an overall collaboration of many different groups coming together to get for him to be assassinated.
Yeah.
For him to be assassinated was just okay, let's just FBI being involved, you being involved, the Muslim, let's all just come together because we want him gone. Right. That's the bottom line. He's accumulating too much power. He's getting a little too cocky. He's getting the following. He's speaking up a little bit too much. Listen, and we need him gone. We want to do anything. We want to shoot up his house. We want to take away his financial status. He didn't even have money to do half the things. He didn't have. Financially, he was struggling. I knew that as well.
I didn't know that, though. I was wondering how he was living after he left NOI, but I didn't realize he was literally, like, struggling.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't know to what extent, but I heard that he had started to, just struggle. So it was just amazing to, even on the day when it happened, there was no security. It's just like, okay, where's happened all the police and the security and his protection? So Malcolm knew anyway that he didn't know the time of the day, but he knew.
Yeah.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah.
He knew that he couldn't even, when you're in that situation, you don't even know if you can even trust the people that's even in your inner circle, because everybody now, they have if they're given any financial, basically, somebody say, okay, listen, you do this, we give you this, we financially do this for you, we take care of you. He couldn't trust anyone anymore. I mean, he had that inner circle that he still loved, but at that point in time, like, who do you trust? Who do you truly trust? Because you don't know who's for your good and who's for your evil.
And also, when you look at that, they show you the video of the person who shot the handgun, and then when the people are just about to rip him apart and kill him, that's when the police take action to pull this guy away from this. And it's just like, this is, it's this, I mean, the iron, I mean, not even iron, but it's like that aspect of them doing that to save the bad guy and not doing anything as far as, like investigation. It's just right on film where you get to see it. Like, we're going to pull this guy apart. We pull this guy away from these guys who are going to, doing something. Actually, the social justice, this is justice that needed for the people that are right there that take action. And then they're like, no, we'll protect this guy, and then we'll pull someone else in for this. It's just like terrible to watch.
What's interesting that you mentioned that, and when I think about when in the last episode, when the police officer who was like a secret kind of service police officer who gave a mouth to mouth, I noticed that I didn't notice any police standing around them, like right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, we'll go outside and grab the guy who, we saw with the handgun, but we're not going to stand immediately around him to secure him while we wait for medical attention to come.
Yeah.
It's just so unfortunate. Like,
that's a good point, Jerome, because I noticed how there was no security detail inside, but I'm telling you, as soon as the bullets went out and they got that one dude that's like cops flocked out of nowhere.
Right.
Like out of nowhere.
Right.
Thank God for Ruben, who was Malcolm's security, who shot Hager in the leg.
Yeah.
Thank God for Ruben. Then even after all this happened, they tried to give Ruben a gun charge.
Oh my goodness.
He skipped town and went to New Mexico.
You do know a lot.
Yeah. Ruben is the guy if you go back and get the time to look at the Ali film with Will Smith.
Oh, so okay.
So Ruben is the guy. Ruben, he shoots the guy in the leg, and then when he hits the guy with the chair, that's Eugene Roberts.
I'm just writing these names down. I'm gonna do a lot of
Eugene
research.
Roberts hits Hagar with the chair. Ruben shoots him with the gun. So Ruben, of all people, because he was I think he was former. He came from the Nation too, but Ruben had a street element to him. So they probably wouldn't even got Hagar if it wasn't for Ruben.
Well, thank God they got at least one of them, because then you at least have some truth. You know what I'm saying? If they didn't catch anybody, you would have, the way people keeping secrets, you wouldn't have had nobody.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they at least got him.
But I mean, Thomas Hagar even said, what was it? William Kunstler, right? Didn't he give William Kunstler like the names of the people? Well, he said the other two guys are actually innocent.
He did say that.
Was that 1977?
Yeah.
He was like, oh, that right there, he let them know that they're not supposed to even be here.
And why do you think that wasn't like good enough? The fact that this man is in court saying like we said it was like 5 of us all together, but those 2 are not a part of it. Why wasn't that like good enough?
Yeah.
This testimony, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess he wouldn't give up the other.
Listen, they knew they had depending on somebody because they were about to have an uproar in the community. So they were already having an uproar. So it's just like, okay, we got to take care and who's going to be the fall guys? And they became the fall guys.
I hate that though.
Yeah.
I hate that there was this dark secret that nobody exposed and they could have saved 2 lives.
Right.
Okay.
And throughout the whole movie, I was nervous for the guy who was doing the documentary. I was like, you think?
Me too. Because I was like, he bold going to somebody's house.
Outside of the boxing thing, and he's like, I think he's over there. Like, he might catch it. He might catch it right over there.
Even the brother told him, he like, leave that alone. We don't want nothing to happen to you. I know. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
So what is that all about? Sometimes we get naive and think that all Black people want things to be better, but sometimes I guess better for some people don't mean better for others.
Right.
So then we tend to just kind of like, whatever I'm doing underneath the ground, I'm good with it, and I don't want it to be interrupted. So I'm not going to go over here and, be a part of Malcolm's thing. I'm like,
It's kind of hard because everybody, that Muslim community is real tight.
Yes.
And it's family on top of, family and business on top of business. And, it's only like probably 2 degrees of separation. You start, talking your whole social circle, your whole lifestyle, you know what I mean? People know you, they know your family, know where you work, they know, you know what I mean? Everybody know you. So, it's so insulated that if you go almost against that, you just open up yourself to be, something can happen.
Target.
Yeah, like back in the early 70s when they were finding Muslims in Weekway Park and heads cut off and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yes, I remember that. Yes,
I didn't know that.
So I have an older friend. He's like 60. He just turned 68, And he told me that story before I even saw this documentary.
Wait, what story is this? You said they was getting heads. Like, what was going on here?
So he grew up in East Orange, but he said his sisters had got involved with some people from the nation back in the day, in the late 60s, early 70s. And he said, yeah, we used to always hear about, Muslims from the Essex County area who would do things to people for whatever reason, and you would find a part of the body one place and the head somewhere else. He told me that exact same thing you just said.
That's such a contradiction, though, from because Malcolm X really wanted to, he was trying to relive that he, in his eyes, like we talked about, Jerome, NOI kind of saved him. He felt like it saved him from that life of crime, but then he's with an organization that's doing these undermining things. And I'm sure that was part of his frustration, because he probably, the more he stayed in it, the more he was starting to see things he didn't want to see, which is, I could just imagine that disappointment.
I guess you saw some of them are part of the nation, but it's just a cover up for them to continue to do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And people would cover for them.
Yeah.
Malcolm did a lot of things prior to him being in the nation, but we would assume that the nation helped him, get past all of those things, and he sort of tried to live a straight and narrow life after that. But that doesn't mean that everybody else who may have done negative things prior to being in the nation discarded those negative things that they kind of sort of masked them with the nation, or use the nation to cover it up. And you still have that today.
Yeah, you do.
I work with a few Muslims, and one closely in particular, and she tells me some things from time to time. And she knows a lot. She's from North. She grew up in North. She goes to the mosque in North, and so she knows a lot of people, and she tells me things sometimes.
Well, clearly it's still a powerful organization. At least Mosque 25. Because I told my mother about it. I asked her questions, because she was here doing the North riots and stuff like that, and she said it was back then, especially when she was growing up, she was a teenager at that time. She said it was very powerful, that organization. Nobody, even if you weren't a Muslim, you did not go against that organization. So just imagine that kind of power. So then you kind of think you could kind of see, even though I'm not comfortable with it, you could kind of see why people didn't go against the organization. Yeah. Nobody told, even though it's a open secret.
Yes.
People were really loyal.
Oh, real loyal. And then back then, you got to understand too, Newark is a Muslim town now, but even back then when they had the fish markets and the cleaners, they had a lot of businesses.
I was telling Monica that yesterday.
Yeah, actually when I was born, my sister was 15, 16 years older than me. And when I was born, she was influenced by the nation. And she convinced my mom, from the South, didn't know anything about no Islam. But she convinced my mom to give me the name Rahim. So even though she, later on, she didn't, she strayed away from that. She didn't go deep, but, it's a big influence on her too. And I guess part of that is why I started studying it so much, because I was I didn't grow up, practicing Muslim, but I had the name. And so, when people always ask me, people Muslim would test you, what does your name mean? And, then you got 5%. So I said, let me get into this, And then when I think I was 15, I read Malcolm's autobiography, and it changed my life. So that's why the full circle with this documentary, when I say I was floored, I'm glad you guys invited me to this, because I had nobody to really bounce this off of. I was floored. I'm stunned. I fall and can't get up floored. Wow. Hats off to the filmmaker, man. It's excellent.
He really did put his life on the line. He was really pushing some boundaries.
To be a part of it and still asking questions. Because it's and every time you get closer towards the end, it get a little tougher at that table when he's when he's with this guy and his son, and they're both adults, and they're just I think you already said it earlier that like almost to say, be careful what you ask for. You know.
I mean, they pretty much did say that.
Yeah.
They pretty much said, "Be careful." I thought it was pretty bold that he went to the man's funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said, you know, that takes some balls.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that the mosque right there in East Orange near
South Orange. South Orange.
Oh, that was the
That's in Newark. South Orange. My mother knew exactly where that was at.
Yeah. I've been in that mosque before.
Really? Is it like, what's the vibe? Like, is it a calmness? Because it's supposed to be, Muslims are supposed to be like calm and, you know what I'm saying, dedicated. Like, is that the vibe?
Yeah, I was doing a wedding for a guy who's actually Muslim, and we went there, and I had to consult with the guy that runs the temple there. And when I was there, again, knew none of this either. So, but when I went there, it was just, you know, it was a strong community. Everybody was friendly. They invited me down to come down on some sessions and study if I wanted to. So I can't say it was anything sinister when I went. I'd be lying. So,
Raheem, have you ever been to a janaza? Or anybody, have you ever been to a janaza?
No. No.
My cousin passed a year ago on the 19th, and that was my first time going to a janaza.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone because my cousin was Muslim. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got
Okay.
to that, Tina.
Okay.
It was interesting, really interesting. It's very different than a regular funeral.
Yeah, women on one side, men on the other.
They did let us see him, but normally they don't let you see the body.
Okay.
Right.
But they did let us see him, only because there was a lot of difficulty with the morgue releasing the body. He was in a motorcycle accident. But I'm not really sure the reason why they held the body longer than they did, because, you know, they're supposed to be buried within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the body wrapped up or no? Isn't it like wrapped up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they did have, like, not the entire cover of the casket open, but just a small part where you could see his face. And so we had to, the women were on one side and the men were on our side. Then there were partitions between him and us, and him. He was like in the middle. So they like opened up the partition, and all the men got to kind of just walk through very quickly, just to like look and just keep moving. And then they
Malcolm had like, I think it was like 5,000 people showed up at his.
Yeah, that was different. That was much different.
So my last big point is that they're talking about reopening this case. But my struggle with that is that this was reported in the Daily News in 2015. There's a book earlier. Why does it take people so long to reopen these cases and deal with these things? The same like when they see us, when they do the movie, then they're like, oh, now we got to try to start to look into this again. Like, it should be, as soon as there's new information, deal with it and try to clear these things up, not wait for the movie for it to happen. So, you
know what? I think what basically happened is, because the police officer did botch up the case so badly, like the evidence was not, you know, first of all, to reinvestigate this, that's already going to make New York look bad, NYPD look bad. You know what I'm saying? And they don't want that kind of PR. You know what I'm saying? Because they one of the guys admitted, like, we messed up that whole, like, it was not a safe scene. Because remember, Jerome, we was talking about how they had a party that night?
Yes.
Like, it's a shooting, and then how you going to have people, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a crime scene. You know what I'm saying? So it's really going to be hard to prove people innocent. We don't even have a proper, even though they did have a lot of evidence, but they don't have, like, all the evidence. Right. Some of it is missing. Some of them they destroyed. Right. They destroyed some of the evidence.
I guess with all the money and the time and the documentation, right? Because you have like all these investigators where some of them were known and then some of them were not known, and the FBI, this one, all that. And it was like, he dead, it just sort of kind of went away. Like, they moved the chairs and all of the equipment out for the next party to come in on an event. Like, I had such a difficult time dealing with that because I wasn't born in that time. And in our time, we know something happened, you're not going anywhere near the scene. Once police get there, it's a wrap. Right. So I was just like freaking out, like, I can't take this. Like, why is nobody, like, why is all these people still here? Why are people moving? It was driving me crazy.
It made me question all the crimes that they solved in the 60s and the 50s and stuff like that, because I just don't think they were, especially black crimes, like crimes that involve us, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they were invested, which is why they botched it up, which is why they destroyed evidence. Which was, at that particular time in the 60s, when we still going through harsh race relations and stuff like that, they weren't invested in us. And they were really, like we said, they were really happy that he was gone anyway.
They were invested in destroying us.
Yes.
And all those other people got paid to do it. But then once the person was out of the picture, it's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, we're done.
We done. Yeah. We're finished.
Yeah.
So do you think this makes, like, NYPD look bad, or does it make the FBI look bad? Like, who looks bad in this?
All of them.
Everyone.
Like, who looks bad in this?
Yeah.
NYPD, FBI, Muslims, everybody look bad. I think it's and when I was looking at it, I was trying to actually think about, how did Betty feel about all this? Like, after this happened, she's there. How do you even go on with your life after your husband is assassinated?
Right. In front of you. In front of the kids.
In front of the children. You already have received all the threats, and he was receiving all the threats, and you knew this was going to happen, and then it's happening by another black person that's pulling the gun. How do you, she even stayed to the cause, but that can make some people just become really angry and don't want to be part of it. You can become angry against your own people because you killed my husband.
Well, you see the daughter, a couple of years later, remember the daughter, was the Quavella? Like, I can't think which one it was. Remember she tried to, allegedly, she tried to kill Farrakhan, allegedly, because she felt, that must have been difficult for her to see that in front of her face.
Right.
She didn't go to jail. She didn't conspire to kill Farrakhan. She went to the United Nations International School. There was another young man who went to school with her, Kirk Fitzpatrick. Kirk Fitzpatrick appeared out of nowhere. They were friends when they were in school, and he discussed it. And it was supposed to be a joke. And I think he must have been filming it, or he was recording what he was saying to my sister. And there you had that, all of that happening.
Yeah, I forgot. There was one guy, I forgot his name. I think he passed away. But he was, I think he was there that night when Malcolm got shot. And he said he was literally going over to Mosque 7 to shoot up the place. And they said he said he got stopped. Somebody stopped him, or the cops stopped him, and he got questioned. But he said he was literally going to see, who was the captain at that time? Captain Joseph, Mosque number 7. He was like, he was going over there and he was going to do some work. That would have been super messy and crazy, but
I'm sure they had a few death threats.
On Malcolm's defense, he was gonna do that.
He said he was going over there, and I think actually a week later, didn't they bomb Mosque 7?
They did. A week later, they bombed it. So that means they were, which is why you hear the people from NOI, the people who used to be a part of it. It's funny because as I'm watching the series, you see a lot of people tag like former NOI member, it was a lot of formers. And I'm like, what they're doing now type thing. But even then, they're being honest, like Elijah Muhammad, like, you better not touch Malcolm. They were adamant. They still seem like they believe that Elijah had nothing to do with this. And I just can't believe they really still believe that. They had nothing to do with this.
Are current Muslims considered NOIs today, or they just Muslims? Like, I'm not.
You mean like the Fruit of Islam, or Mosque 25 now?
Yeah, like Mosque 25 now.
Mosque 25 now, they are still out there at the final call. They still
Okay.
It's still active. I mean, maybe 3 years ago, I went to Savior's Day broadcast. I've been to like 3 of them. They had one at Newark Symphony Hall. That was years ago. They had 2. I've been to 2 at Essex County College.
You know, I'd like to go to one of those just to check that out, just to experience it.
It's powerful.
It is, right?
Yeah.
My cousin go all the time, and she swears by it.
Yeah.
She's not Muslim. She just like the upliftment of it.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. Like I went again, not knowing all of this, but just being curious too of what I've known a little bit. But yeah, it's powerful.
So how does that make you guys feel about like the organization itself? Like NOI, like how does that make you feel like that they have this connection? Do you feel, maybe I should make an assumption, do you feel that NOI has something to do like really with like they had their really hands on it to get him killed?
You know what my theory is? Here's my theory. My theory is, because I think most of those guys, the 5 guys, were from Patterson.
They said Patterson too.
This is what I think. You know how, what's the word? You know how, okay, the Ferber was already in the air that he's a traitor.
Right.
You've seen the cartoon with his head, with the head horns, Malcolm's head rolling down the street. So if the Ferber is out there, you even hear the old Farrakhan speeches, you can hear the Ferber. What I think is that, you know how a certain segment, like we're going to do this, but people not necessarily, it's not a coordinated plan that everybody say we're going to do it, but it's a couple of people say we're going to do it. And ain't nobody really like, well, you know, if they going to do it, you know what I mean? We ain't stopping it. Right. You know what I mean? And just from, they said in the documentary, like they couldn't be from New York because they would never got in.
Right.
They had to be from somewhere else. Yeah, they've been recognized straight from the door. So I think that those people took it upon themselves to do it. Now, with everybody being bugged and all the surveillance, FBI knew they was coming.
They knew.
That's why that's why I said, where all the cops go? You know, they knew they was coming. The drive one was caught by Eugene, who didn't know. He got dismissed. When they got to the door, they didn't see nobody was checking. It was like a free run.
Which is crazy. Why was nobody checking for, I mean, I know it's the 60s. I guess I'm thinking like 90s, 2000, but everybody gets patted down. And he was a marked man.
Yeah.
Why was nobody checking?
That's a tough question right there. That's a really tough one.
You know, he knew his life was, I've heard him say, I'm sure y'all heard him too. Malcolm said his life was like, his limited. Like, they about to get me right now. Why are you not checking folks?
But Monica, when you and I were talking yesterday about that, in terms of who put out the hit, so I was basically saying, once, you know, it was like Raheem said, the fervor was out there. You had mosque in Philly, New York, Boston, Chicago, Newark. Like, if it's out there, it's out there. Anybody could be, you know, some were for him, some was against him. So it's like just getting the opportunity to actually do it. And I guess.
Then let me ask. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm taking over your
that's a
podcast.
It's a discussion. You can talk. We do it now.
Sorry. We had a long discussion, Jerome, yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Why did y'all do that when I needed it here? I need it here. I'm kidding.
Because I had just finished watching the end of it. And I was
held back when I texted Monica. I held back.
I was like, Sheila Oliver, what? Cory Booker, what?
Cory Booker, what?
But no, I'm going to stop you for 1 second and then complete. Right. You have a lot of Cuba Gooding where you're just swinging.
Yes.
Watching, you just like can't just
fight in the air.
Yes, exactly. Lord. Sorry, keep going.
Now I'm losing my train of thought. Wait, I forgot where I was going with that. Now I got to rewind. It'll come back. So
just go through the notes from yesterday that you guys did.
What was it? Okay, that's the question.
Okay.
If he never left NOI, because we discussed this, do you think he still would have been killed?
Yes.
Okay, so me and Jerome, we discussed that, and we really feel like he was pretty much like the writing was on the wall, basically, no matter which direction he took it. Now, why do you think, we have our theories, me and Jerome talked about this, but we have our theories, but why do you think he would have been killed, even if he stayed with NOI?
Because Malcolm, I love the other civil rights leaders, but Malcolm was talking about human rights in the United Nations. This is a whole different from civil rights. When you think about going global, and even when he was traveling Africa, remember the CIA was trailing them in Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when it's okay to stay within the walls of the US, but once you start connecting not only Black people, but he was a Muslim connecting to other people globally, now we have, this is a whole different threat. I mean, that's the epitome of what J. Edgar Hoover said, we got to stop the rise of a Black Messiah. And Malcolm was probably the closest thing. I love King. King was a powerful brother. But once Malcolm started talking some global stuff, he got to go.
Did you notice in the in the last episode when the guy was doing his investigation and he was looking at some of the documents and it was talking about Malcolm traveling to Africa, and one of the documents it said that someone paid for his trip to go to Africa, but the name was blacked out. And I just was curious about
that. Was his sister.
Was it?
Oh,
wow. We were trying to figure that out.
Yeah, Malcolm's sister was a successful businesswoman in Boston. So when he left the nation, she was able to give him money.
Okay.
So that who was supporting him basically was his family?
Yeah. In fact, I think there's one scene in the documentary where I think Betty comes out of the door. They never say who the woman is, but that's his sister to the far left.
Okay.
Yeah, she's financially stable, so she was able to give him money once he left the nation and support him a little bit. So when he left, he wanted to travel abroad. She was the one that paid for the trip.
Oh, okay. You know, during that trip, there was I looked at something from Muhammad Ali, and they actually encountered each other during that trip. And one of Muhammad Ali's greatest, he said, regrets is that he turned his back on Malcolm. He was saying like he had the opportunity, like Malcolm like reached out to, like not reached out, but like, hey, you know, they kind of like bumped into each other, like, hey, and he literally turned his back and walked away, which I thought was like crazy considering that Malcolm brought him into NOI. Like that was his way in. And he says because he wrote a book, he said years later, he realized that all the stuff that Malcolm was talking about was actually right. Because eventually he left NOI too. And I felt like that was such a powerful like moment, even for Muhammad Ali to realize like, he said if he could turn back the hands of time, he would have definitely not turned his back on him, knowing what he knows today. And I wonder how many people are still holding secrets for NOI, you know, after all these years.
A bunch of them.
And it's funny because they're supposed to be they are a positive group in some ways. You know, they talk about Black achievements. They talk about Black people being self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying? They promote this, but at the same time, it's like the organization is built on secrets. So I don't know like how stable that is.
I think we can say I feel like there's a lot of positives. The bigger negatives kind of it really stains the organization, but past this point they've done many positives. Even with in hip hop, you see them try to get people together and calm things down. It's just we don't, the hard part is we don't know the part of those two guys that were pulled in being enforcers, how much stuff that you guys were already talking about was done around that time early on, where they were actually able to go. Because the plan was obviously take people from prison and help them out, and then they become some of the important leaders. And at the same time, it feels like some of that element stayed in it. So, but ultimately, I think mostly what we see is mostly positive now. It's just we really would need someone to really step up and say, you know what, this was wrong. We gotta say something about this.
It would be nice if somebody most of those people are dying out now, you know, from that time. But it would be nice to have someone admit, you know, that this is, you know, like, because they had so much evidence that those two guys, like, how you have concrete alibis and you still go to jail? Like, they both had concrete, like, they weren't even in the proximity, and you still, like, that wasn't good enough? You know, so I just hope one day, when somebody guilty, somebody conscious, they will tell the truth. And just let that be, like, the final rest of this all, because it's still not, there's still no peace to this. It's still like an open wound.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Do you with that whole, we got to see all like the FBI evidence, and you know, we got to see informants and all that stuff. How do you guys think that applied today? Do you think that's things are going on that level? Is it different? Is it not that serious? Is it?
No, it still applies today. It was so funny because I remember Monica. Okay, so I'm trying to think. It's probably like 13 years ago when they had the North Coalition of Violence. I can't even remember the name. Anyway, after the person was young lady was killed right here on Meeker and Elizabeth Avenue. So they came together and they formed a group. And now North Coalition of I think NVO, I can't think of the name right now, but anyway, they came together, and every Wednesday we would meet and we would protest, and whenever somebody was killed, we would go. But in the group, there were individuals who were Muslim, right? And so they was, you know, really start to talk about the police and things they're doing in the community. And so those who were the core of the group, because I would just come out to support, but the core of the group, when I tell you, it got real when we would be at a setting and police will be on top of a building taking pictures.
Stop playing.
You know, I remember that, taking pictures, like who's in the crowd, who's speaking, who's saying this, because they needed to know. It was North Anti-Violence Coalition. There we go. So they were trying to figure out, you know, because you had individual, and that's before Ross even was the mayor. I think even before he was the council person, then he became the council and the mayor. But he was out there with North Anti-Violence Coalition. It was called NAVC. Bashir was the head of it, and some other. So, you know, they had some theories about, you know, what was happening in the community as a whole. So, of course, they addressed the violence of black on black crime, but then they also talked about the politics, the police, the racial profiling. So they would say things, you know, where people were like, wait a minute, they sounding like they're Panthers, they're sounding like they're this. And what's his name, who was the head of the NAVC, he was actually he was part of the Black Panthers, or the new generation of Black Panthers. So it was just amazing where you look at one time, we was on the corner of Bergen and Lyons Avenue, and they were on top of City National Bank, like taking pictures and stuff. I'm like, yo, are you serious? So it's still, if you have a voice, you're sounding too powerful, you're sounding as though they feel as though that you're anti-police, then they're like, when they're looking, they're going to research you, they're going to research your family, they're going to research your home, they're going to just research everything about you. And they don't care. They don't care. They come in, they're doing, so it's still happening. It's just that if you're a part of an organization, you'll see it more so. But it's definitely still happening. And I was like going out with them and seeing it then, especially for big. They didn't come out when it was like a small volume of people, but when it was like a large volume of people, yes, police was there. They were there. They were on top of buildings. They was looking. They was taking pictures. They had guns. It was just crazy. And these coalitions was about peace, to come together to have the community, but still they felt as though, I forgot who the police chief was at that time, the city of Newark, but they still felt as though it was a threat. So yes. It still happens. It still happens.
I think they dot their I's and cross their T's better now, though, than they did in the past.
Yes,
Like,
that's true.
I think now, because there is so much. They scared to have any type of holes in their investigation now. So now I just think that, yeah, I do think they're still watching, but I also think that they're being more careful about who they go after.
Okay.
Because, because now in this modern day where everybody have cameras and everybody have, they're a little more cautious. They just make sure all their ducks on the road now.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my thinking.
Well, when you think about it, only time I think the world got nervous when we had the Million Man March. It's like, what are they doing? Oh my goodness, they're mobilizing, they're coming together again. Who's the freakers? Now you think that was the FBI investigation then? What?
Yeah, I'm sure that was. I'm sure that 1 million black people in it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was.
Well, they also use the news for that. They use the news and say, well, it wasn't that much. Like, that's the way to go back to the news and like say, nah, it was about tens of thousands, but it didn't hit the mark yet. So it's like,
overall, though, I think it was an excellent documentary, though. I really, like you said, it exposed a lot.
Masterpiece.
I'm probably going to end up going back and looking at it again because I'm pretty sure there's some parts I probably missed and I need to, I need to look at it. That's true. Yeah, I definitely look at it again. But I think it was definitely heroic for him to put that out. Yeah. For him to research the way he did. I mean, and he was showing you his I got receipts. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not making none of this up. You know what I'm saying? So, and people have the right to know the truth. Even though some people, like you said, like Raheem, you said you knew about 75% of it. So the truth was definitely out there before we saw the documentary. But of course, there was because he was so intense in his studying, you learn more.
Well, that's the other thing that I was struggling with. When you see that and you hear that it's in the daily news, it's like, man, I got to go do some actual research. I can't just let this stuff come up.
I've been researching since Monday, since I finished it. Like, okay, well, let me go back and look at videos. Like, I've been looking at.
Yeah, once you start doing that research, it starts. I mean, there's a part of me. You start hitting something, you start getting shook. Like, things start looking real bleak. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever did it, but you start the way he tracked Malcolm's. If you start reading about the Black Panthers, you probably wake up in cold sweats the way they was doing them.
I know they did them dirty.
They did that to the next level.
But Malcolm, he is still one of my heroes, guys. I mean, when people ask me who my heroes are, I always say my dad and Malcolm X.
Sam, you said something to me days ago where you said you felt like it didn't have closure, the documentary.
No, I mean, I wasn't expecting to have closure. Usually the documentary is always like it goes to the myth and says, here's a lane you could go, but the story could go this other way. And they're just like, this is it. It's just like directly to it. And I mean, with these long form docs, I'm like, I haven't really been sold, but this one, I was like, all right, this one really is true to, it works with the form of being this long form documentary. There's no fat. It gave us those early episodes, gave us the background, gave us the whole thing, set up that. And then when you go back to Jacob Hoover, it's like, oh Lord, he's writing all the paperwork. It's like everything he's listed there. So it's like, it give you that full view of everything. And then just think about being in college. Like I remember that first time, and that's like, to date myself, that's like 1988. And a friend of mine in art class, he had this like amazing painting of Malcolm X, which he did with I think with markers, but it was just with dots.
Pointillism.
And it was just like, I was like, wow, it was like that. So it's always been a backdrop of everything, the whole state experience. So, different things, I think me and Raheem were a part of is like there was always a backdrop. And then being in Newark all the time, it's just like, so it was that initial thing. So it's been like, it was a while since I saw it maybe like, I guess when it first sort of came out, but it just popped up and I was like, let me watch this. And I was like, I need someone to talk to about this. I'm putting all this stuff on Facebook. Then I was like, oh, tell me, look at this in the paper too, damn it. But yeah.
I have a question. Do you guys feel like some people are not interested in it? Because I'm like you, it was hard for me to find anybody to talk to about it.
I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it I've seen a few people. I want to say at least about 3 people came through my newsfeed saying like they were like, but it's like 3 people. Like I haven't really seen a lot of people like, whoa, like did y'all watch the Malcolm X? Like what I'm saying? Like I haven't seen that.
Okay.
No, I think when it first came on Netflix, within the first 2 weeks, I saw people on my feed on Facebook talking about it.
Okay.
And they
Yeah, when
were
it
saying
first,
that it was good, but there were no further discussions about it.
no, when it first came, I saw a lot of people talking about it
Okay.
on my news feed, and I saw some people from Newark who I know who were active. Some of them were very angry.
Really?
They had cold saying they were angry, about, they were following Malcolm and they knew, but just to see his picture and everything that happened and all that was involved. So it was some good conversations and some debates that were going on. But with time, everything just kind of fade away. So you would have to. Now, I bet you if you'd have put this on this Zoom later, like say you decide, like I'm gonna Zoom and I'm gonna go Facebook Live, you probably get people that'll chime in right now,
Okay.
and they'll bring it back to them like, oh yeah, I had nobody to talk to because I thought the same thing. Like, hey, who do I talk to about this? So I was like, and Monica took so long to watch it.
I know. Plus, I had to mentally prepare myself.
Yeah,
I know.
I hear that a lot in the house.
I already knew.
No, but it did make you mad.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I had to literally mentally prepare myself. All right. So what's our closing thoughts to Malcolm? What's our closing thoughts?
Oh, man. No, I'm just glad that, I really wanted to hear, the reactions. That's what, because I had 3 things and you guys all answered them. That was great for me. So this was more important to me than even having any other closure, to hear what you guys felt about it. So that's my last thoughts.
Yeah. I really did enjoy this conversation. It's going to continue to make me look further and research further. I like to research everything. So based off, that's a lot of stuff that I wrote the names down, Raheem, that you said. I'm going to research this because now I'm more curious about the whole dynamics of Malcolm X. I even researched as far back as the guy that started it. What his name is, Fard, or who started
Master
NOI?
Fard,
right? And how he disappeared, and how what I'm saying. Like I even went back as far as that. You know what I'm saying? Because now I'm just curious about the whole story of NOI and Malcolm, and I'm just interested. So thank you for the conversation because it definitely helped me pique more of my interest in the story or the history of it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Glad to join. And thanks for joining. Yeah.
Thank you for joining. Yes.
Yeah. So any more, put me on the list. I'm with it.
All right.
Any more? Like I said, I was floored. It's the filmmaking was phenomenal. The information, it's mind blowing though. It's still rippling through me a little bit.
I want to know who married him.
Who, the William Bradley?
The person was like a councilwoman, not a councilwoman. She was on City Hall, like she were his wife. Like who married?
She was the guy that, remember the hurricane, that movie with Denzel Washington, the lady that was his advocate.
Yeah,
that's his wife. Yeah. Oh. That's a whole nother chamber, Monica. It get deep, Monica. I'll give you some names. It get deep.
Okay.
That's her.
Some names because they asked for her to be interviewed and she didn't want to be interviewed in it.
Oh man!
I think her name is.
I thought it was because she's just being dedicated to her husband. But I see it goes deeper than that. Okay. That caught me off guard. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, who married him?
That's her.
Wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about the synergy that she married him, who she was the Hurricane, who she was advocate for, who Denzel Washington played Malcolm X, who also played the Hurricane. I was thinking of all that.
Wow.
all of that together, but yeah, but I'm gonna end it on that note.
It was a very, like you said, it was really good. I appreciate him even taking the time to go and do this documentary. At the end, you felt as though you wanted closure. You wanted him to Mr. Williams, you wanted him to be prosecuted, and then you find out later that he died. And,
I know.
like, you don't know if you either feel bad that he passed away or you still want justice. Well, and the flip side, throughout the documentary, they kept saying, well, but he's a changed man now. He has to live with his own, as they say, live with his own demons. So they didn't really want him to bring it up, the past, because they felt as though he's changed. He did something, like, how they say you did it in your youth, but you shot to kill Malcolm. That's the, but he's a changed man. So he's giving back to the community. He's an advocate. He's an activist. When he passed away, we were to celebrate his life out there, and he was out there with the horses, and they were riding him through the city. And that was hard to watch.
Celebrity or something.
Like a celebrity, and it's like, wow. But you had to look at it. Some people didn't know his past. They only looked at what he had done through having the boxing center and things, camp. The kids come in there, and him and his wife just being an advocate for youth. So that's the way some people in the community looked at him. But others knew the true story. But as years just went on, they're like, okay, that's, forget about the past. Don't worry about that. He's changed. He's transitioned. You shouldn't hold that against him. But again, just like anyone else, he killed someone else. Other people were actually had to serve time. So yeah, you wanted justice for him. I mean, you wanted justice to prevail for him to pay for his crimes, but at the end it didn't. So it's like, to me, it would just show how a community can come together and keep a secret. And how everyone, I'm telling you, when it first came out, I knew a lot of people on Facebook Live. It's like, I know him. I'm so mad. He went to, he was at my church. He used to, my son used to go over such and such.
We saw him in the community.
In the community. He was, he helped out on different campaigns. That's why Corey was like, no. We can't be talking about this. I'm trying to run for president. Come on. We ain't having this. But so overall, it was good. I think it's worth showing because you had the two sides of the story. Now, some people were saying it makes North look bad. Now, oh my God, it makes North look so. No, it's the truth. It's a story that has to be told. It just happened to be
in Newark.
It happened to be in Newark.
Right.
Anyone who knew the history of the Muslims back then, like we were talking about earlier, those are the stories I grew up hearing. This, you don't mess around, you'll end up in Weequahic Park with some missing body parts. Okay, so it was real deal. You knew what to say and not to do, and then having cousins who were Muslim, they would talk about it as well. So again, I think it was just good to show how at the end the investigation went through, and it gave, I'm quite sure for people who was upset, it gave you closure, even though he didn't get justice, but at least now you know.
It still does shock me though that no one came forward.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That just still boggles my mind that no one came forward.
Oh, because of the type of person he was, and they just knew connected to was like, you didn't say anything. You know evil, hear no evil. Just keep your mouth closed.
I guess with all the information that you guys probably know a lot more than I do with investigating Malcolm's life, but just with all the things that I've learned, and especially from this documentary, is that we look back at history and we see people like Malcolm, Martin, and leaders, our people, or Black people, that they have this mission, they have this goal, and they set out to do it, but we don't always have this, like, I guess, great final story. Like, say for instance,
right,
Nat Turner, right? Like, his life, but he was killed, so we don't know what would have happened if he would have lived, right? Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, right? So I think he came to do what he was set out to do. It's just unfortunate that our people were a big part of his, downfall. They were able to be used to, infiltrate and take him down.
Yeah.
I think the documentary was a great body of work. The investigation is superb.
Yes.
I would have loved to be a part of that, production.
Oh man, yeah.
On any level, and I hope that his family got some closure from it.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true.
That's
but they got some justice from that.
Right. Because even though, the guy who pulled the trigger to the shotgun, he, died before he could, actually, the guy could approach him and to investigate that. I still think that there was closure to the documentary, and I hope that the family was able to get some closure from that.
Okay.
That it's a powerful piece of work, and he was a powerful man. And,
definitely.
Yeah. That's
Oh, okay. All right. I just want to add one more thing that I'm just hoping, you just made me think of something, Jerome. I really do hope that the documentary make people see a little bit more about Malcolm, that he wasn't like this great Black nationalist. At one time he was, but I'm just saying about how he evolved into something greater. Or he evolved into something that a lot of people did not understand his life. I'm telling you, I spoke to my family members, and they just they just thought he was just, something out of, they didn't understand his journey. They didn't understand him as a person. And some of them just thought he was just like just too hardcore Blackness, and how we try to assimilate and all that type of stuff. So I really hope that people really see this other side of Malcolm, how he really was for the people. He was all people. Yeah. All right, guys.
Close us out, Monica. No, we should do something else soon. We should figure out something where we can fight it out. We can get each other on the mat and argue it out. But
I'll look for something. I'll look for something. I'll follow up with you guys.
Put it together.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, it was great talking to you. I gotta call my son now.
All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. So peace out. Thank you for joining. We'll meet up again.
Later.
All right.
Well, thank you, Monica. No.